Hi everyone, thanks for joining me for a few more ideas about the beginning of Schumann's Second Symphony. It's such a pleasure to play this music and to listen to this music, and I hope you agree, because if we play music instead of notes, then we play naturally, we let our voice sing, or we're playing artistically. We're not just trying to do a very controlled exercise. And for me, that helps tremendously when I'm playing this excerpt. So there's a couple of things I want to talk about today. One is a couple of tips on how to get physically more comfortable, things to watch for, and ways to practice. And the other is to be presenting more of the music that's in the orchestra. The trumpet part is a very small part. A critical part, an important part. We play the first note. And that's something that that you should know that's different between an audition and a performance or a rehearsal. In an audition, you are the conductor. Once you get the go-ahead, you just play whenever you're ready to play, and the music comes from your mind just as if you were conducting the piece yourself. In the orchestra, this can be a little difficult. It's not only for the players, but for the conductor themselves, because the conductor will do something like, and you'll get the tempo from that. And one. And then the trumpet has to come in there. So it's a great idea to practice actually visualizing the conductor, even moving with the conductor. So, but for that first note especially, just practice it all by itself. So you're aiming at a target. Now, the thing that gets sketchy about this is some conductors want to follow you, and other conductors want you to follow them. And when you two are not sure about what's going on, then it's a very uncomfortable situation. So you try and read the conductor's intent, the way he's feeling the music, and then basically you have to put that note and lead. Now, the interesting thing that happens here is that you don't know what the tempo is going to be. Let's say a new conductor comes in, it's not the resident conductor, and they might have a different musical idea. You might have played the piece before many times with the house conductor, with the music director of your orchestra, but not with the guest conductor. So you have to be prepared to play at any tempo. And the standard tempo is 76, but oftentimes you hear it played slower than that. Now, why is this important? All your coordination for that first attack is based on feeling the tempo. So 76 is here. But there are recordings that you'll hear that it is more like even down into the 50s. Now that's a little crazy. I would stick with the standard tempo for an audition. And especially if there's a marking in the score, if you have a metronome marking, there are traditional ways of doing it. Zoom in on that, on that tempo that you want for the audition. But in a performance, be ready for anything. So you get used to playing you worked really hard on keeping a steady beat, keeping the same tempo all the way through. And that's the mechanics. In the performance, you're listening to something. So as soon as you start the note, the string section comes in, I believe it's the violas and the cellos, maybe second violins, and they come in with this melody. So it's 2, 3, 1. Do you see how that can help you? If you just hear that in your mind when you're playing, you'll hear not only the melody line, but you want to listen for the harmonic progression. And that gives you a sense of forward motion. Now this helps you physically. It helps you to get more comfortable to play it physically too. So the physical part and the musical part, you want them to be tied together, so that when you are hearing this line as you're playing, you should notice that it's actually easier to play. And this is true for many, many excerpts, but especially something as touchy and exposed, as soft and dolce as this, something that is so flowing in the string part. You really need to allow that music to kind of sink into you. So a lot of players, as I mentioned in the intro to Schumann too, find this uncomfortable. They don't like to play it, and that's perfectly understandable, and I completely identify, and it took me a long time to get anywhere close to comfortable with this. There are many reasons for that. I won't go into all of it today. Let's just talk about some of the things that might help you. So we'll start out with something a little different. You see it's pianissimo, and you never know, it's another good rule for a rehearsal, you never know how loud or how soft you're going to have to play. So as I've mentioned before, don't play as soft as you can the first entrance. Play in a comfortable zone and be more concerned about the sound, the voice that you're producing. You are the leader of the brass section, and they're depending on you. The second trumpet player is depending on you. This is another very important thing about playing in the orchestra as opposed to playing an audition. You're playing with people. In an audition, you're not. You have to kind of imagine that you're playing with people. And when you're playing with people, the conductor cares more that the trumpets and trombones are playing together, and that it sounds, that note comes beautifully together, is a united, blended sound, then he cares about whether you're following him perfectly. So he's going to be flexible. He'll go, and then at that point, you make sure that you're communicating with the rest of the brass section. So you're feeling the conductor's tempo, even anticipating it if you're at the back of the orchestra, and that's a factor for the sound getting to them on time. That's another very important issue. We'll probably deal with that later in more detail, especially on some excerpts. Capriccio Italiano is one particularly difficult that way, in terms of you have to be right on top of the front of the orchestra for it to sound correct. But in this case, you're kind of leading the conductor, in a sense. You can also do this a different way. You simply listen to that that you're right there with the strings, and you're hearing their sound. It's coming to you kind of like chamber music, and you can make sure that you're keeping them moving, or depending on the style you're trying to play, you can set back into their beat. If they have a good flow forward, it becomes kind of like chamber music. Now this is the highest level of playing. It's like when you hear a great jazz combo, and the drummer's, and the soloist might be setting back in the beat. The rhythm section is pushing forward, the soloist is setting back, or the other way around. That's what makes this fun to do. It's not mechanical, it's not metronomic. It is even. It's an even flow. So when you're trying to get comfortable, all this is great. This is wonderful musical things you could try and understand. But if you feel uncomfortable physically playing this, it's a no-win situation. You have to figure out how to get comfortable. So the first thing to do is just find your sound, find the voice, and do that at a middle, moderate volume level. Mezzo forte, mezzo piano, whatever feels good to you. You can even start forte if you like, but no forcing. Just flow. So I'm going to play a little bit louder. Now I might feel more comfortable doing it that way. If I do, get more and more comfortable. Play it. Get in that comfort zone. And then your work will be to gradually reduce the dynamic level and keeping your ear to the sound. Maintain the quality of the sound, maintain the direction of the line, all the musical things you're trying to do. Make that the focus of your attention, not playing softer. And there are a lot of things that can help you with this. One thing I find really valuable is vibrato. Now, obviously, I'm not using any vibrato on this, and using vibrato would be totally inappropriate in this situation. That's one of the things that makes it really difficult for a lot of people. I won't go into detail, but when I was a young player, I had a natural vibrato, and it took me about a year at conservatory before I was able to play anywhere near comfortably without using vibrato at all. So this kind of excerpt would have really been difficult for me at that point. Now I'm going to say, go ahead and use the vibrato. What's the point? Here's the deal. I'm using a jaw vibrato, very, very slight. And you can hear, I'm sure, that the timbre is changing. The pitch, actually, the pitch hardly changes. It's very, very slight, but there's a change in the timbre. What's happening physically is I'm slightly opening my mouth more and closing it more. I'm drawing the teeth apart a little bit and then closing a little bit. There's a place where the note rings the best, and that's where you want to stay. And this will have to do a lot with your jaw position, how open your mouth is, and many other things, tension in your tongue and so forth, whether you're supporting the airflow and giving sufficient airflow, whether your embouchure is set up properly. That's what makes this a difficult excerpt to play. Everything has to kind of be in line, and you need to be confident of it. But if you find that sweet spot where the sound lights up, so there's a place in the vibrato Can you hear that latent sound that's just starting to come into vibration? That's a great exercise to do for this. There are many other things you can do, but I like to find the sweet spot with vibrato, mezzo forte, and then I know kind of where I am. And as it goes up and down the range, most people close their teeth up. They close their mouth up. They get tight when they go to the G. It tends to go sharp, obviously. It's hard to hold it in place. You shouldn't have to hold it in place. You want to find the floor of the pitch. It just kind of sits there. Now I don't have to hold on. I can simply release the air. These are all the things you're looking for. And these are high-value physical targets. It takes a lot of work to get there. But for me, the motivation is you get to participate in something beautiful. You get to create something beautiful. The beauty of the sound, the feeling of the movement in that string lines, the whole atmosphere that's created at the beginning of the symphony sets such a wonderful tone for the rest of the work. Yeah, see, I'm smiling because I'm feeling the pleasure of listening to it in my imagination right now. That's what you want to be doing. So one thing you can do to emulate somewhat the playing in the orchestra is to play with a recording amplified enough so that you feel like you're playing in the orchestra. And you can hear the sound of the other instruments and you're playing with, and the memory of doing that is going to stay with you as you're practicing it by yourself. Go back and forth between those two things. I think what helps me the most is to sing the other parts in my mind as I'm playing. Now that requires that you have you trained in the physical control you need to play this excerpt. If you haven't trained it in, then you're going to be managing, your lip and your air and all the mechanics, all the physical stuff. You're going to be managing that and just trying to play in tune and in time. And that's not fun. That's not fun. So first thing is lay the foundation in training for your sound, the flow, the connection between the notes, your sense of time, your sense of pitch, and the more physically comfortable you can get, the more the music is going to come out. That's the goal. That's why we're working this intensively in order to create this level of craftsmanship that honors the music, so to speak. That's really what we're doing here. So as I'm playing this very kind of stark line, octaves and fifths, three, Yeah, I don't like what's going on, but if I focus my attention not on, my throat's getting tight, I'm using too much pressure, let the body take care of itself. If you train properly, you'll know, open up, release, trust, follow through, engage, monitor. All those things will happen unconsciously if you've been doing that in your practice. Then you can concentrate on see, it has a feeling of graceful, slow dance movement. That's the swing in the music. That's what you're always going for, no matter what the style, no matter what the tempo. I hope that's enough to chew on for a while. Go and see if you can taste some of these things I've been talking about and bring them into your playing. And I'm sure that you're going to find this excerpt and maybe many others more comfortable to play. Thanks for spending the time. I will see you later on. Bye-bye.